Welcome to Terry's Kitchen, where we talk food, faith, and family. Today we are making Aunt Louise's lasagna. So all of you have heard me talk about Aunt Louise. It's actually Ron's aunt, but she became my aunt as well. So before we get started, I would like to read out of the NIV Bible. It is Hebrews 11, verse 1 and 2. Now faith is being sure of what we hope for, and certain of what we do not see. This is what the ancients were commended for. So isn't that the truth? We need to hold on to our faith, and we know that the Lord will take care of. So my prayer is for all of you watching that the Lord has blessings over you. Thank you. All right, let me wash my hands and we'll get started. Okay, so we are making Aunt Louise's lasagna. So you hear me talk about Aunt Louise. She was a mighty lady. She had a large family, and she loved to cook. And her and I cooked. Anytime we were up there, went up to Northern Virginia, I loved to get in the kitchen and cook with her. So she actually taught me how she made her lasagna, and it certainly is Ron's favorite. He loves to keep it over. Lasagna is great the first night, but you put it in the fridge or stick a square in the freezer, it is so much better the second and third time that you had it. It's actually one of Ron's food items that he would eat leftovers, because he's not a big fan of leftovers. So what I have before me is a lot of stuff, a lot of ingredients. So I have here first, and I had Ron take a picture of, there was no sense to show you on video how I prepared the sauce, so there's a picture. So basically what I did, this is a lot of meat, because if you're going to make lasagna, definitely make a couple trays and like Catherine bought some ingredients. She wants me to make her a large lasagna pan for her and Chris that they can have and take to lunch. So if you're going to do it, just do a second pan, because you're going to your through the same efforts to get it done. So, all right. So what I have here is 3 pounds of ground beef and a pound of ground pork. So what I did, I took just a little bit of olive oil, and I put an onion per pound. So it does not a large onion, but a small onion per pound. I chopped up the onions, sauteed it a little bit in the olive oil, then I added my meat. I browned that. I had some garlic as the ground beef was browning. I added some crushed garlic, cloves, so a clove for each pound. And then drained that well, the grease from there, and then I put it back in the pot, and I added a teaspoon per pound of Italian seasoning. And what I do with dry Italian seasoning, I will put that teaspoon in my hand, and I'll just put it over like that. That breaks up some of those flavors. Then I cook that a little bit, and then I added whatever spaghetti sauce that you like. I do not make my own spaghetti sauce, only did one time with a dear friend Susan. So just pick up your favorite sauce in the store. And for the 3 pounds, I use 2 large jars. Cook that. If you could simmer that about 15 minutes, that would be great. And your sauce is ready to start building your lasagna. So this is a large lasagna pan, deep dish, because, the good thing about lasagna, you want to be able to have several layers of the good stuff. So, and I've also took a big pot and cooked my lasagna noodles to be al dente, and so they'll be ready to assemble. So I'm going to spoon some sauce here on the bottom of my pan. Now when Aunt Louise, because she had a large family and she loved the leftovers, she did a huge pot, and a pan of lasagna, and to feed everyone, and it was always such a great time. So I'm heavy on the bottom with the sauce because when I take it out, I want to have some of the sauce underneath. So I'm going to get my noodles here, and I'm going to start layering. Just put your noodles side by side here. Now I have tried the oven ready noodles and they work just fine, but I have a tendency to go back to cooking the lasagna noodles. I don't know why, but I just do. To get this little section, I'm going to pull off a piece to slide right there. So you kind of see when you just layer that down on top of your meat sauce. Put a little more sauce on top, and then we're going to start adding that good cheese. Now Aunt Louise, never that I knew of, used ricotta when we were cooking together. It was always cottage cheese. And Ron loves cottage cheese, so that's what we use. It's a little creamier than ricotta. So you just take a tablespoon, kind of mix it around. You don't want to just glob it on. You want to just kind of mix that around. I remember when Aunt Louise, I was standing over her in the counter, and she'd show me, and then I would do it, and she said, "Terry, too much cottage cheese. You don't need that much. Just put some around, work it around that sauce." So that's what I do. It seems like every lasagna I make tastes a little different. I don't know why. I do not know why, but it's always still good. Wouldn't you say, Ron?
Most definitely.
So when I told Catherine that I was going to make lasagna, she said, "I want a pan." So I was like, okay. And there's a friend, John, that his favorite is lasagna. So I'm going to get him a couple squares. So you've put your cottage cheese down, and here's a little bit of Parmesan cheese. Sprinkle a little bit of that on. Then about a handful of shredded sharp cheddar. Put that on top. And then a healthy handful or two of mozzarella. So it's basically, I guess, a 5 cheese with your cottage cheese and your Parmesan, and then so now what we're going to do is we're just going to add some more noodles. We're going to layer again. And the nice thing about this pot, it's so deep and it's wonderful for that lasagna. Because I've made, when we were first married, and I didn't have a really deep dish, so I've made it with a 9 by 13 baking dish. And it works out just fine, but you just can't have all those, as many layers. And lasagna is kind of like it's like meatloaf, your spaghetti. Everybody's tastes different. Like my mother, this is not her favorite. She kind of likes my sister's lasagna better. But, you know, that's okay. That's okay. My family enjoys it. Now, Mom will eat it, but when it comes down to whom she likes better, now I'll get that out, it would probably be Sherry's. So just more sauce on top of those noodles. There we go. And back to the cottage cheese. Tablespoon. Twirl that around. Now the key thing with I think a really good lasagna, and it comes out of the oven, you want to let that sit probably for about 20 minutes, because the longer you can just let that rest, when you slice it, it will come out in a nice, beautiful piece. Now there have been times that we've rushed it and it just kind of spilled out all over the plate. But if you can let your lasagna rest 20 minutes, 25 minutes, that would be good. Now I unfortunately can't do the cheese, so I'm going to have a nice, with the rest of this sauce, not all this sauce, I've got some more pans of lasagna to make. I'm going to just make me some good old-fashioned spaghetti. Okay, so we've got our cottage cheese down, back to a little bit of our Parmesan. Handful of our cheddar. And the mozzarella. And back to our noodles again. Kind of layer that. We're going to have a nice garden salad with this. We've got some fresh tomatoes, and the cucumbers are starting to be out at the farmer's market, so I'm going to have a nice salad with this. May make a loaf of focaccia bread, or may not be saying that right, but that's how I say it. That'll go nicely with our lasagna. Okay, so back to our sauce. This will probably be my last layer, because by the time I add the cheese, and I don't want it running and spilling all over my oven. I could probably push it a little bit, but I'm not. Okay. So now on our final layer, so again, cottage cheese. Now this was the large container of cottage cheese that I used, and depending on how many you make, for like this size, it's going to be that one of the large. But if you make smaller, or two of the large size here, you'll definitely have to pick up two, because actually this is a huge pan here. I see quite a lot going into the freezer. But what a great thing to have. You put it in the freezer, and then when you come, like maybe that morning, as you're heading out to work, you pull those out of the freezer, stick them in the refrigerator, so they'll be kind of thawed out by the time you get home. Pop them in the microwave, heat them up, and it is delicious. Okay, so some more of the Parmesan. Now another scoop of this. So this layer, I'm going to add a little more mozzarella than I did in the previous layers, because I want that to have a nice layer of good old cheese on top. Now this, when you go to actually make your lasagna, it's going to be a little expensive getting your cheese and you know, your ground beef, and if you want to put the sausage, you do not have to put the ground pork. That is something I have done it with, and I've done it without. So that's kind of a little healthier layer here. Now, this was Aunt Louise. I always thought you just, you know, stopped with mozzarella, and she said, no, Terry, provolone cheese. When they owned a restaurant in Fairfax Circle, actually a pizza shop, and Ron said that they would have long rolls of provolone that they sliced, and provolone cheese has such a good flavor, and so it really kind of tops off that lasagna. Okay, and that was a pack, and so for this large pan, that was a pack of provolone, of the 12 slices. So what we want to do before we put that in the oven, I'm going to I have a little cooking spray here. I want to spray the top because I'm going to cover it with a piece of foil, and I don't want that cheese to stick to my foil, so I put a little bit of cooking spray before I cover this. So you want to cover it. I have my oven preheating to 350 degrees. Everything is basically cooked in here, but you want to get that cooking when it's baking to marry up those flavors. So I'm going to put it in the oven here, and I'm covered, and I'm for about 50 minutes. And then those last 10, 15 minutes, maybe an hour, 5, 10 minutes, depending on, because you want it to be nice and bubbly, I would take off the foil and let it brown a little bit. I don't like a really hard layer, and that's the reason I want to make sure that I put the foil on it. So let me get this in the oven. Oh my word, that's almost 50 pounds. So it feels like it. Okay, so I'm gonna, again, about 50 minutes I will bake that with the foil on there. So that's how I make Aunt Louise's lasagna. May not have been the same exactly like she did. You know, you kind of get your own flavorings that she did. I don't know if she actually put too many extra seasonings or as much onions as I do, but still a lasagna is wonderful. And good old Aunt Louise, and you know, it's so nice to have these videos where her kids can see, and grandkids, and they can have those memories of that lasagna. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to carry on with a couple pans and finish up. But at the end, we'll show you a picture of what a square of the lasagna looks like after it's cooled. But thank you so much for coming into our home virtually. We do appreciate it. If you like our videos, please hit like, subscribe, share, because we do appreciate it. Blessings.